Hi, I'm astrologer Penny Dix, and welcome to an Astrobite for a rather important day, Friday, the 15th of August. It's important today, and the energy is really rather interesting because President Trump and President Putin are meeting much later on today in Alaska to discuss the situation, let's call it that, in Ukraine. Now, it is very interesting astrology because Mercury, our planet of communication in the fiery sign of Leo, recently gone direct after being retrograde for about 3 weeks, is making a sextile to Mars, our planet of assertion, energy, action, sexuality, also our planet of war, our god of war. Mars is currently in Libra. Now, when I first saw this transit was going to be happening, I just thought, and I made a little note, bodes well for the talks between Trump and Putin. And I wrote that a week ago. I'm not going to make a prediction, but I am going to look at what this energy could or how it can support the discussions they will have. First of all, the very interesting thing about this transit is we have one today, Friday the 15th, and then we're going to have another one on the 18th. Now, this is extraordinarily rare. So they will fall out of sync and then they will suddenly come back together in a sextile. So the second sextile is on Monday, the 18th. And Mars will be at 7 degrees of Libra. And I'll come back to what the individual meanings are in a minute. And Mercury will also be at 7 degrees of Leo. So let's hold that in our minds. And then if we go back to today, the 15th, which is super interesting, we've got Mars at, where is it? There it is, 5 degrees of Libra, and Mercury also at 5 degrees of Leo. So the fact that we have this energy overlapping or repeating itself a couple of days later is what gives me a lot of feelings of hope and encouragement on one level for the communication that will hopefully take place between Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin. Let's just have a look at this a little bit deeper. First of all, the fact that they're both going to repeat on Monday suggests to me that it bodes well for a second meeting being arranged. And remember, if you have been following the news, they are talking about the possibility of another meeting after this one, which will also include, which I think it should have done from the beginning, President Vladimir Zelensky. So it is interesting. Let's just think about this energy, because Mercury, as you know, is our planet of communication. It's still in shadow. It won't actually leave its shadow position until the end of August. Now, I wonder whether, if these talks go well, right, let's err on the side of positivity. If these talks go well and both parties listen to each other, that what can come of this is a second chance. So they give themselves a second chance to meet up again. Maybe it won't be on Monday, but maybe it will. Maybe it actually will, with Zelensky, so that they can have a little bit of a discussion about the details of any potential progress towards a ceasefire and peace. So as I said, Mercury is all about communication, and it's in the sign of leadership, Leo. And we certainly have the two probably most powerful leaders on the planet meeting in Anchorage in Alaska. So that in itself is a big thing. And they are both, of course, very ego-driven men. And I'm also encouraged by the fact that Mars is in Libra, where Mars will look for balance and harmony. So there is less likelihood that one will be trying to outdo the other. Although with Mercury in Leo, there may be an element of that. So if we break it down, Mars in Libra sextile Mercury in Leo, sextile being harmonious, helpful, with opportunity. It blends strategic action with expressive and confident communication. And here's the important bit that conjures up: diplomacy. I really do feel we are going to see diplomacy taking place today. Because Mars in Libra will act with tact, charm, and a sense of fairness. Mars in Libra wants to create harmony. It still wants to win, but it wants to create harmony. It also seeks balance between being assertive and cooperating. So we're really, this is fine-tuning. This is really looking at how we can find the frequency where these two maverick men can communicate on the same frequency and talk the same language. Mercury in Leo is going to communicate with pathos, with warmth, with drama, and with self-assurance. Mercury in Leo is persuasive. Mercury in Leo will tell stories with quite a bit of flair. And Mercury in Leo wants to inspire and be heard and be seen as a leader who is open to communication. So I feel this first meeting between Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump will bring a very easy communication. And there is going to be an element of mind against willpower. Who is going to enforce his particular rules and structures onto these proceedings? But I do feel there's the possibility of them both together as they talk, creating opportunities to act on the ideas that they move around on their table, let's say, that they look at these ideas, but they don't take drastic action and they're not reckless. I think they will encourage each other to speak with passion and truth, but aim to keep diplomacy intact. So you can be diplomatic. You can sell an idea, and you can do it in a way without coming across as too pushy. And the core meaning of this is that it really does give a wonderful platform for creative problem solving. I think both parties are going to be feeling mentally agile, and they will use their charm to navigate any tricky situations or pregnant pauses that arise in the discussion. I also think there's an element here of, I think both sides are going to be wanting to make things happen, not to just talk about it and go away. So there really is a very good astrological energy supporting these talks, and also supporting further talks should they decide to do it. And what better time to do it than Monday, when they have this same energy again? What are the pitfalls? Where could they trip each other up or trip them at their own selves up? There's a danger that they are too reticent, too smoothing over the cracks and kind of brushing the conflict under the carpet, avoiding the real core issues, and maybe getting carried away with the deals they can do on precious minerals, etc. That they avoid the discussions about the cold, hard truth of the situation, which, as we know, is people are continually dying. Women, children, the elderly, let alone the people on both sides in the respective armies. So there is a risk that they both get caught in their charming, ego-centered persona, so that they just rush ahead and make agreements about basically trade without dealing with the nitty-gritty. That is the biggest pitfall and problem that can come from this wonderful energy. And it would be such a shame if they can't use this energy to its best advantage, because it really does have a potency to bode well. I had a look at how it affects both their charts, and I'm just going to get the first chart up. So for Mr. Trump, for President Trump at the moment, the sun, transiting sun, is coming up to his natal Mars. So he is ready to burst out on the stage with all guns firing, but a little bit more like, da-da, here I am. Because his Leo ascendant is at 29 degrees. And both the sun and his natal Mars, the transiting sun is at 22 degrees Leo, and natal Mars is at 26 degrees Leo. So he has this energy bubbling away, brewing underneath the surface, ready to burst out. In another week or so, that sun is going to move into his first house. And by then, I think we will have a very different picture of what's going on. Now, the Mars-Mercury sextile is actually, is bringing in the energy of his second house of, it can be finance and economy, so this could be looking at trade. And it also brings in the energy, interestingly, of the 12th house again. He's keeping something back. He's keeping something up his sleeve. Now, I don't know what that is. I just know that he's keeping something up his sleeve. If we then swap that for Mr. President Putin. Let's see what we have for him. Now, the sun has just gone over his midheaven. So this means he is shining. He is ready to rock and roll. He's feeling pretty good about things. That sun, the transiting sun is actually conjunct today his natal Pluto, as it is for many, 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 many people who were born in 1952, because Pluto is in each sign for a long, long time. But it's interesting that it's at 22 degrees. It's exactly on his Pluto, on his midheaven. He thinks he holds all the cards. I suspect he thinks he holds all the cards. And he may too have something up his sleeve so that neither man is going to show their hand at this point of the proceedings. And for Mr. Putin, what's interesting is that that Mars-Mercury sextile is widely bringing in the energy of his natal sun in Libra. So he's a reasonable man at this point. He's open to, he has to be open to suggestions and a way out without losing face. This war must be costing him a fortune. And not only that, if the tide of feeling in his own country, Russia, starts to turn against him, that does not bode well for his future. So he may well be looking for a way through this and a way out. There is no doubt that whatever is discussed today with these two gentlemen, the outcome isn't going to be clear for, I would actually say, possibly not till the end of August, until Mercury comes out of its shadow. But I think we may see that second meeting. Now, what's the best way that they could use this energy? And then I'll come on to us personally. Well, it's great energy to negotiate. It really is. It's great energy to give a talk for public speaking. It's great for mediation and diplomacy. And it's great to collaborate on creative projects where we need to find solutions quickly. So there really is excellent astrology for these two people to meet today. How does it affect you and me? Well, I think in general, today, Friday the 15th, and over the rest of the weekend and into Monday, we're going to be feeling pretty okay, pretty kind of balanced, harmonious. Maybe we have a clarity about the direction we want to go in is becoming clearer for us. I think that, if I go back to the chart, there's a sense with this energy of feeling empowered through the ability to recognize that you personally have value, that you have something to say that is important to be heard. There's very much a feeling in this chart about communication and wonderful energy for really taking those next steps towards manifesting something of significant importance into your life. There's a feeling of harmony where there has been discord, smoothing over troubled waters, and a general feeling of a karmic repayment, a debt being repaid. And with that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, even though it's not exact, at the top of this chart in the 10th house, that part of the chart that is about our passion, our soul direction, what we would like to put out there in the public eye. There's a sense with this energy of it's time. It's time to show what you're made of. It's a time to come out of the shadows. The moon is in Taurus today, and the moon is making various aspects as it goes through the day. But the moon in Taurus gives us some substance, some security. So I think if we come back to the main event of what might transpire between President Trump and President Putin, then I think there'll be some movement forward. I think it could be very productive, what they talk about. We may not get to hear what all of that is about, but I do think the energy supports a positive meeting and a positive outcome and a second meeting. I don't have to be right. I am reading the cosmic weather forecast, which is all I can do. And do I have any intuitive feelings about it? My intuition says it's nice energy, it's good, positive energy. The problem with that is sometimes we fall into complacency and we don't get anything done because we think, oh, it's so peaceful, everything's so comfortable and nice, and we don't actually take advantage of this really powerful, wonderful energy that we can launch something important with this energy, something of substance and power that can be enduring. But I have some quotes to look at the energy of, I suppose I looked at some quotes that highlight the importance of communication. And then I had a look at, what was the other thing I had a look at? Yes, I had a look at just some different ways to how to build trust. So some of the quotes that I found here, which our two world leaders today might bear in mind when they go into this meeting, are that, and this is quite interesting, and this fits in with the astrology. George Bernard Shaw said, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And that's the problem. They may get too carried away listening to their own rhetoric and charm and not spend enough time listening to what is coming their way. And Rainier Al-Abdullah said, we are stronger when we listen and smarter when we share. So that's quite deep and quite profound. And that really, I think, is what both leaders need to do. They need to listen to what the other has to say. My concern is, and I think probably Zelensky's concern is, that President Trump hasn't equipped himself well enough with the historical accuracy of how long this situation has been going on, and that he is not fully understanding the importance of the need to keep the boundaries between Russia and Europe secure. James Humes said, the art of communication is the language of leadership. Yes, but you have to be able to listen. I would also say the art of communication is the ability to listen and not judge, but to reflect and then respond. Henry Winkler said, assumptions are the termites of relationships. So true. Oliver Wendell Holmes said, speak clearly if you speak at all, and carve every word before you let it fall. Now that is a wonderful truth. And let me see if I can find one more before we close this out. Oh, I think this is a good one to speak. This is by Plato. I think this is a good one to end on, which is, wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. You know, it reminds me, and I think I've told you this before, but it reminds me of a way that, a method that is used in selling, in sales. And it's as simple as this. You pitch your position, your sale. You show what you've got. And then you shut up. Because the first person to speak has lost. Because if the seller says, well, what do you think? Do you think it sounds like something you'd want? Already you've lost, because then you've given the other person the chance to say, I need to think about it. I'm not quite sure. And you start to lose. You lose them at that point. Whereas if you say nothing, their feelings of being uncomfortable will prompt them to say something like, well, that's an interesting idea you're selling me. Then you can go into reel in your fish. You still may not get the sale, but the point of power is in the silence. The silence when you've pitched your deal. So this is what probably both of them will be doing. And they may sit there for a long time in silence, although I doubt it. I think they will want to cut to the quick and get to the main core of the problem as quickly as possible. Let's just hope that both men are willing to see the bigger picture and see that this is the death throes of a way of governing the planet that is soon, I feel, going to be obsolete. Because I think we're moving towards a time where humanity isn't going to want borders or boundaries. Where we're not going to want borders, boundaries. We're going to want to be a universal humankind. So we will wait and see, but maybe this Mercury sextile Mars will help us on our way. I certainly think, thank goodness, it's a wonderful energy, not just for our two main players today, but for all of us to do anything which is positive, which sets the tone for what you want to set in place. Treat it like a new moon. Set the scene. Make your intentions. Invite something positive into your life. On that note, thanks so much for coming to join me for this Astrobite. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I really look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye for now. Bye.